And thank you, Chintan, for being here. How do I know Chintan? I think most of you know Chintan. Chintan is someone who takes you out of Chintan, out of any kind of worry. So, very beautiful human being, very interesting soul. If I sit down to talk with him, I probably can spend hours just listening to the philosophy and to all that he has collected over the years. Someone who is very wise, who is very humble, who is very aware, someone who wants to share selflessly, someone who's not scared, who's daring, someone who is not, he's not fake, he's real, he's authentic. And that's Chintan Dalal for you. Thank you, Chintan, for being here.
Thank you, Anu, for bringing me on again. So this is the second session that we are doing together, and this one obviously is designed a little differently, and so we'll get a lot of time to talk, heart-to-heart talks with all of you. So this is going to be amazing. Uh, let's dive right into it.
Absolutely. Chintan, I was, remember we spoke 2 days back.
Yes.
And you know what amazed me in that was, you sent me a set of questions.
Uh-huh.
But what I was more interested in was to know about your life. And when I talk about your life, I really want people to know, how did Chintan grow to become Chintan? Because we know the talent that you have, but not many know the grooming that you had. Who and what are the sanskars that really groomed you into becoming who you are today? So can you take us into the first few years of your childhood? And meanwhile, I will try to get your pictures organized and show people when you pause. So just take me through your mom, dad, nana, nani. What were they doing? Where were they from? Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Anu, as I always say, I'm actually very blessed to be born in a family of Vipassana teachers. Uh, so my life began uh, with meditation in certain manner, where my mother was attending a 7-day intensive Satipathan course while pregnant with me 7 months. And so meditation was received by me in the womb. Okay.
Wow.
That is the beginning of the journey itself, if you really ask me. So the sanskaras come from the source in certain manner. Uh, my parents, wonderful parents, both have been working, uh, but very, very spiritual. My entire family, we are technically my father, my mother, and both my buajis. We are one single family, and now my wife and my younger brother, obviously. Uh, but when I go into my ancestry, my grandfather was a freedom fighter and social reformist of sort back in the day. He came from a small village called Anjar, Kutch, in Gujarat, and he settled in Bombay. He was a school teacher back in the village, and then when he came to Bombay is when he started his own printing press, printing a newspaper called Jai Kutch, which was obviously against the British Raj in certain manner, and he was always in the forefront of the freedom struggle, where he would always be in jail with Mahatma Gandhi ji, no matter where. And so that is what he dedicated his life to. Uh, my buajis, my father, all of them actually grew up with him around, but at the same time, not him being physically too much around. But the sanskars that they received, meditation was introduced to my family by my grandfather. Uh, he was originally a disciple of a really great sadhu in our village. And then in 1969 or 70, when Goyankaji came to India, is when he took the initiative and he took the entire family into the art of Vipassana and meditation. And from there on, it's never been a look back for my family. Both my buajis uh, chose not to get married, and they chose to dedicate their entire lives just teaching Vipassana across the globe. And that is what they do even till this age. They are both above 70. They still travel with, you know, two bags and taking flights and taking every type of transport and traveling across the world and conducting anywhere between a 30-day to a 90-day complete silence course of Vipassana. Uh, my own journey started obviously because of them and because of my mother, where weekend hai, vacation hai, uh, be it any occasion, and I am at the ashram with them. And I got introduced to learning Anapansati Dhyan by the age of 3. And I remember the first incidents. This was the magical first aha moment of life. Is I would be probably 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken, where my mom and my buajis would leave me playing around a garden just outside the Dhamma hall, and that is exactly where Goenkaji's study room would be. And he would sit in the evening and he would write while the meditation would go on. And he would always, you know, call me, play around with me at times. Sometimes he would call me in his study and give me probably a paper and a crayon, and he would be sitting there writing by the window, and I would be sitting on the floor doing my great art. uh, and it was then I remember this event as if it's yesterday. Is I'm sitting there and I'm drawing something, and that is when I believe the first out of body experience happened, where I could see myself sitting there and drawing. I could see Goenkaji, and there was this first transmission of awareness, as we say. We can also call it as an out of body experience, but I would say the first experience of being self aware and looking at your own self just as a third person, where you are not an identity. You are the whole universe in certain manner. But that was the first glimpse of it. Life moved on. By the age of 13, uh, I had started, you know, sitting in on the teaching part of the children's courses, the 3-day children camps that you would happen at the ashram in certain manner. And I did my first 10 days intensive course at the age of 13 or 14 also. But the turning point is, we'll come to that. But this is pretty much about my family and how they brought me up. All the sanskars that they provided. I wouldn't really also say sanskar. It was actually uh, a womb incubation space. Okay, this was life, and this was the normal for me. So everything that I knew, the only agenda for the entire family, the only aspiration for the whole family has always been about enlightenment in certain manner.
Wow. So, Chintan, at the very young, you were, that means being exposed to the environment which was full of belief, trust, faith,
Yes.
and full of not questions but answers,
In certain manner, yes.
and full of what you can call meditation.
So
Ever rebel? Did you ever rebel?
not at all, because the entire system was not based on trust, belief, or belief patterns in certain manner. The entire system is actually very, very scientific, where you are taught to discard all the belief systems, and you are uh, put into a science and a technology aspect of it, which is simply to begin to observe your breath and your mind, okay, and analyze it neutrally without a prejudice. So I was very lucky. If you ask me today, look, my parents would have been followers of some other school of thought in certain manner, in which case it would have definitely feeded a preconceived notion, a belief system, a religion into my DNA. Fortunately, that did not happen. Okay, because with Vipassana, it's a very scientific tool and a technique which takes you away from most of the beliefs, and it actually opens your eyes to what is real, what is the truth, and that is very clinical and scientific in certain manner.
So, at 13, what was real for you?
At 13, the target of being enlightened in this birth was real. Uh,
No, guys, at 13, guys and boys and girls are busy trying to deal with their hormones.
yes, I
And this
understand.
guy is talking about enlightenment. and he was teaching something that is vipassana to the younger kids. That's why I'm asking him, what did life feel like at 13?
That was the normal. That was the absolute normal. Trying to understand your own mind and being aware of everything that happens inside of you was the normal. That was what was taught. That was the influence. That was all about everything that I knew about life was only this, nothing else. So that was perfectly normal. The only agenda and aspiration was enlightenment here, now, in this birth. No wasting time in the material world as such. Fortunately, the material world did happen, and it happened fantastically also. So, but
So
we'll come to that.
can you take us through your 13 years to a little older, where you became aware of yourself as a sexual being also, not
Yes,
just as a spiritual being, because that's such an important component of both the sides of the spectrum.
absolutely. Uh, Again, whenever I compare myself to other kids of my generation, uh, I never ever had uh, per se what we say as that violent streak of sorts. I was different all the way. Uh, if you ask me, I was actually never interested in the mundane things that youngsters of that age group do. Uh, my friends, school friends or college friends, if you ask me, were interested in women. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's one aspect of life, but then there is so much more to life. Uh, it would sound funny at that point in time, but fortunately, my parents, my mom, and my father, they understood this very well, and actually they respected and they actually helped me grow over that entire sexual age very smoothly, very easily. uh, and that maturation, and I always say that on the journey of spirituality, the maturation of the muladhar or the maturation of your inner sexuality is the first stepping stone. So that era actually just went by. Yes, okay. uh, After college I would have had girlfriends. uh, I was in Australia for a couple of years, and I've been there, I've done that, but there was always this gratitude, grace. It was never uh, based out of a frequency of lust in certain manner. It was always about respecting the other, and that is what my mother consistently taught very wisely, very beautifully. She weaved it into our lives. Even my brother, I observed the same characteristics where uh, you know it just doesn't matter. I mean, we will never ever have a bad eye for anyone. It's just not there in the DNA in certain manner.
Wow. So you said your mom and dad helped you in many ways to grow out of that phase. What did they really do that helped you?
One was the one the kind of books that they would feed us. uh, Second, the kind of thoughts, the ambience and the atmosphere in the house itself. It was, if you ask me, it was fully loaded with sattva.
Okay.
Okay. So everything was looked upon in a very mature and a nurturing manner, rather than uh, chasing stuff in life, rather than uh, you know going into unfulfilled desires of sorts. So let's say if I would have, I have this example where something very silly. I mean, I was not probably at that age very highly inclined or interested in girls, but I wanted bikes, and that was a desire. But each and everything would be addressed in a manner where they would be like, yes, okay, you need a bike, we'll get you a bike sooner or later. But first, go and address that thought and that feeling and that emotion as to why do you need it, and what is that inner desire. Do you want to show it off just because your friends have it, or become wise and choose what is right for you? Do you still need that particular brand, or any brand does? So I was always taught in certain manner to analyze the utility of things rather than just flow with the herd mentality.
Wonderful. Can I please request everyone to mute yourself? Thank you. I have muted you. You'll have to unmute yourself. Yeah. So let's go further. You said something very interesting. You said from 16 years of age to later, you had experienced it all.
Absolutely.
You had so much of chaos in your life.
Absolutely.
So many challenges in your life that you sat down and said, oh wow, I completed it here, I would have completed it later otherwise. So what were those challenges? How did you deal with them? And if there is any learning process that came out of it, which you can share with people.
Absolutely. So at the age of 16 and a half is when I started my first business. Unfortunately for me, because I was a minor, the business was registered on my father and a few of his partners' names. Okay, and that is exactly from where uh, after a year, when actually nobody expected me to grow out of proportion at that age. Okay, and that is exactly what happened. Something just started off as a time pass or a hobby. It wasn't a hobby, but it was just like a random stroke of luck in certain manner. And my father, his partners, my mom, nobody in the family really anticipated, because all of them came from a working class. None of them came from a typical brick and mortar business class in certain manner, and so nobody really expected that this will just grow out of proportion in a year's time. Okay, and that is exactly what happened. And when you're growing, order is created out of chaos. So I was building my army every single day, and I was fighting with that army every single day. I don't know from where that drive and that passion came, but now, because I'm a fantastic astrologer myself, and obviously I can look at my own horoscope, I know where it came from. I'm an Aries Pisces by combination. And so that Aryans are they're the warrior princes in certain manner, and they are the most aggressive, charged up humans that there are. And that charge came from there, where I started in the coffee vending machine business. And at 16 and a half, this was like the first uh, prick in the foot, where I went out and sought help out of a competitor, just trying to understand the industry. And this guy, who is a very close friend of mine now, uh, tall, beaming, 6 foot Sardar, and he looked at me and he saw me, like a meek 15-year-old kid. And he's like, "Arey, tu bolega nahi to marketing kaise karega?"
I can just imagine a Sardar speaking like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
he would have said, he would have given 2-3 galis and would have said,
he did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
And that just shook me. But that moment, the moment I left his office and I was driving back to my office, something chewed deep inside of me. I'm like, जो चीज इन गधों ने 20 साल में नहीं करी है ना, वो तो 3 साल में उखाड़ दूंगा ये मार्केट में, पूरी मार्केट हिला के छोड़ दूंगा इन लोग की. And that is exactly what I did. Okay. To that extent, even 20 years down the line, now that this person is a very personal and a close friend of mine, my marketing team would even till date go out, win over a contract, and I would ensure that he's still sitting in the waiting room. And before my marketing guy walks out with the contract papers in his hand, they would go walk up to him and say, "Sir, हमको बोलना नहीं पड़ता है, हमारा माल बुल जाता है." So that was the level of aggression. In a span of 2.5 to 3 years, I had done hostile takeover of 5 companies from the market, and really aggressively expanded. And when you do that, you're creating a lot of enemies. And so I would be doing a lot of firefighting every single day. Every single day, कोई ड्राइवर दारू पी के कहीं पड़ा हुआ है, किसने कहीं एक्सीडेंट किया है, कहीं पे कोई साइड पे दिक्कत है. That mess was there, but I knew what I was doing in certain manner. So yeah, if you ask me in terms of challenges, I've seen it all. Whatever that you can imagine, been there, done that.
वेरी गुड. जब आप बिजनेस कर रहे थे,
हाँ जी.
when you were doing business,
Yes.
तो उसमें स्पिरिचुअलिटी कहाँ थी?
स्पिरिचुअलिटी थी, बहुत थी. Okay.
जरा
But
समझाइए प्लीज.
but spirituality also means Sam Dam Dandan Bhed. Okay, that is true spirituality.
Yes.
So I remember another very emotional experience. This was way back, I think in 2004 or 2003 or 2004, when Yes Bank had just started. Okay, and I was awarded the contract for the entire Yes Bank group. And वहाँ पे already कोई vendor का machine लगा हुआ था. And I, breached the contract, literally, hostilely contract छीन लिया किसी का. And I remember it was probably a poor guy who had his contract serving over there, and he was thrown out. And I had that ruthless attitude towards things where I'm like, ये हटाओ ये कचरा मशीन, लगाओ हमारी. That was the attitude.
सुंदर वाली मशीन.
नहीं, सुंदर वाली वगैरह कुछ नहीं.
हाँ.
मेरी ब्रांड की लगनी चाहिए बस. That was the attitude. I'm like, you don't deserve to survive. That was the attitude. Okay. And I held on to that attitude right up till 2013 or 14. And I remember his employee talking to my employee in Marathi saying के आमच्या सेठाने असं काय केलेलं तुमच्या सेठाचं. Okay. So that was a literal cry of someone. And I was actually very, very unemotional about it, with a singular attitude. I am here because you do not deserve to be here. Okay. The weak in certain manner are created to be crushed and perished. This was the attitude. And if you ask me, was this spiritual? In certain manner, absolutely, because as I said again, Sam Dam Dand Bhed. Krishna teaches this in Bhagavad Gita very clearly, that Arjuna, will you pick up the bow and the arrow, or should I do it? So on the outside, yes, I was very aggressive, but on the inside, I was always connected to Anapan, 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 breath awareness, breath awareness, breath awareness. So I was always equally aware of the karmas that I was doing, but there was this inner fire to be able to expand and to create a name and a mark and a legacy in the industry. Fortunately, I sold off my entire business structure in January, and after that the lockdown happened, so thank God. But what I did in that first 5 to 7 years of business, every person across India, whoever is in the coffee vending industry, still knows me personally, or they would always hear वो क्या है ना कि मेरे ब्रांड की कहानियां चलती हैं गांव में कि वो पता है बंबई में एक हॉट कंफर्ट करके ब्रांड है, संभाल के रहो वरना वो यहाँ पे आ जाएगा. वो ऐसा था कि डाकू आ जाएंगे, बेटा घर बंद कर लो.
तो ये रहे हमारे गब्बर सिंह. दिख रहे हैं, आप सब देख रहे हैं, ये हमारे स्पिरिचुअल गब्बर सिंह है. ऐसा वाला नजारा कभी नहीं देखा है ना, आज देख रहे हैं. एंड दैट्स सो इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर पीपल टू नो, बिकॉज़ पीपल थिंक आंख बंद करके सिर्फ पूजा करना स्पिरिचुअलिटी होता है.
No, it is not.
चिंतन, एग्जैक्टली व्हाट इज स्पिरिचुअलिटी? ये चिड़िया का नाम है क्या, और ये कहाँ से उड़ के आती है, और किस किस को काटती है, और क्या क्या करते हैं लोग इससे? आई मीन स्पिरिचुअलिटी.
Spirituality comes from the Latin word called spirus, and spirus literally means to spire. Spire means to take a breath. Okay. Spirituality literally means breathing. Okay. And if you are not breathing, if your modality, whatever you may be practicing, does not involve being aware of your breath, then you're way far away from spirituality. Okay. Then it is just, in my terms, and I'm very upfront about these things, I'm like, वो तो shopping है, spiritual peripheral shopping चल रहा है. If your practice does not involve breath work, being aware of the breath, then you are nowhere close to being spiritual. Okay. What is being spiritual? Being spiritual means there are no belief systems. There is no right, there is no wrong. This is what it is here now in this moment, and that is the truth, and being able to accept that as the truth, how much ever bitter it may be. That is spirituality, if you ask me in conciser.
Thank you so much. Chintan, have you ever fallen in love?
Oh yes,
समझाइए कब और कहाँ?
a couple of times, but but if you personally ask me, love, what we have been taught, is very different, and true love is actually very different. We mistake lust for love. We mistake codependency or dependencies on each other as love. That is not what it is. True love is absolutely unconditional. It is absolutely undependent on each other. It is actually built on trust and respect for each other, like a pillar. Okay, so the moment I'm actually writing a chapter, not a chapter, but an entire module on this subject, and I call it pathogenic relationships. Okay, uh, so in society, we create a lot of pathogenic relationships on the label of love. Okay, but these relationships feed on each other's energies, and this is how we develop 95% of our physical ailments also. So in a house, when I'm diagnosing, let's say, someone as a patient, uh, and just from their nadis, I can tell them about their mother, I can tell them about their father, I can tell them about their relationships outside of the house, what they are experiencing, how they are experiencing things, and where the root cause of the ailment is, and what would be the physical ailment that they will develop. That is the level of diagnosis that I do in certain manner, only through the pulse diagnosis or nadi parikshan, as we say. So yeah, love is a truly sacred word, which, if you ask me, should not be used very loosely.
Absolutely.
Okay, if there is expectation कि मैंने इनको प्यार किया तो वो मेरे को रिटर्न प्यार करे, then that is not love.
Absolutely. तो प्यार है क्या?
प्यार, if you ask me, is again, I mean, love is also ultimately an emotion. Okay, it's a very English word. Hindi, we do not have this.
चलो प्यार क्या है?
प्यार, again, प्यार is where you are holding anything and everything which comes in your periphery or which comes within your auric field with absolute grace, gratitude, and nurture at the same time. Okay, you hold it together for it. You create an ambience for it to grow. Okay, what is this? This is the other person or other being. Okay, to that extent, a lot of people have said this. A lot of people who have met me with your pets would have observed your pets become my best friend instantaneously. You know, why? Because I'm always holding that true frequency of love inside of me. I may be harsh at times externally, but internally, the moment you come into my frequency field, and you will experience, oh, that aha moment. And that aha moment is what is everybody aspiring to experience in certain manner, but that is not what you keep getting. The reason being, most people do not experience it because there is an underlying expectation which is the rider with it. Okay, people need to get rid of that expectation as a rider.
So I'm going to ask you a very simple question, and I'm asking you this because I've seen a lot of people suffer.
Yes.
Either they don't want to fall in love because
Absolutely.
they're scared to suffer, and
Absolutely. Yes.
or they believe that they're in love with someone and they must possess the person somehow,
Exactly.
even if he or she is married to someone else.
Absolutely.
And they are constantly obsessing about the person. I don't know why this question is important, but it feels very important for the audience today. Any kind of obsession
is not love.
Thank you. So how can that person get rid of that obsession? Because There are a lot of people today obsessing about various things, and they are saying that they are actually in love, and so they are obsessing about these things or people. Can you create a distinction for them, please?
देखो ऑब्सेशन जो है इसको हम फितूर कहते हैं ना.
Fatur.
हाँ, फतूर है.
Oh.
ठीक है. तो ये यंगस्टर्स में, इवन इन एल्डर्स, I see this very often. It's ego fueled rage originating from the liver in certain manner to possess things which are outside of them, and the only desire is to be able to experience and be able to penetrate them in certain manner so that they can experience what goes on inside another person's body and their mind. That is the only desire which has no brain in certain manner. It's not logical, but it's just there. Okay, most of our repetitive behaviors or our unconscious patterning are always in certain manner. They don't have a conscious mind. They're just there, like a raging bull. That obsessive compulsive behavior of sort, if you ask me, it's a psychological ailment of sorts. It needs to be worked on and it needs to be moved upon. Okay, please understand, in true love you can never possess anybody. Okay? You can never hold on to anybody or hold anybody responsible for your miseries and suffering. And yes, in true love you have to be completely ready to shed your ego first, and shedding of your ego is a suffering of sorts.
Yes.
So that answers both sides of your question, where why are people afraid of falling in love? Because they are actually afraid of letting go of their ego self.
Absolutely. So can you take us further from Australia? Why did you come back to India? Why not stay in Australia? So many people would like, migrate from India back to different countries, and then they stay. Even if they did come back, they carry a little bit of the accent. You don't have
I can still do that accent very well.
Do it for us now, please, please, please. आज तो बनता है, boss.
No. So
एक sentence.
No, that's okay. It may come by, but any which ways. So the reason why I came back was, when I actually left India, I always knew at the back of my mind that 5 years down the line, I'm coming back somehow. I just knew this. Things were going initially very, very tough back in Australia. So if you ask me, my years of struggle continued right till my age of 24 or 25, to be precise. So life was tough in certain manner. I saw everything again, the highs and the lows in Australia, where कभी-कभी शक हो जाता था कि क्या यही हकीकत है या ये बस सपना ही चल रहा है.
Wow.
Where one day you are, in a 5-bedroom townhouse with 5 of your best friends living the ultimate luxury life, and you have like 25 plus cars parked outside between 5 of you, and 20 days down the line all 5 of you are bloody bankrupt and you are living out of the car without the house and have no money. So I've seen it all. Okay, I've seen amazing highs in life, and I've seen amazing lows also in life, and there have been many turning points. I mean, if you ask me, 10 years of my life, every day was probably a new life in its own manner. Okay.
Wow.
And that is in terms of experiences, that has taught me 3,000 years worth of experiences. If you ask me, am I lucky to have these? Absolutely. Because every day a new challenge was thrown and I learned my lesson. I accepted it, I learned it, and that is the only reason why a new one was thrown so quickly at me. क्योंकि होता ऐसा है ना कि जो अच्छा काम करता है ना, उसी को ज्यादा काम मिलता है. One thing which I learned out of these experiences is, because a lot of people struggle for money in certain manner, a lot. And I always have this one fundamental guru mantra to explain it all to them. I'm like, look, the biggest problem is not the money itself. Whatever work you have been given in this moment by the universe, accept it lovingly and do it with full honor and pride. The only problem is 99% of the population hates what they are doing, and that is why they are never ever moving on. तुमको promotion मिलना ही नहीं है.
तुम्हारा भाव, the intent with which you're doing, or the
Yes.
feeling with which you're doing, is corrupted.
Absolutely. To share a real life experience, back in Australia, when I said we went bankrupt, literally bankrupt, okay, everything just fell apart. The recession came, all of us got laid off. There are no jobs. You run through your money like crazy in certain manner, and in a span of 2-3 months, the last 21 days, we were living out of the car. I had decided कि कल सुबह को गाड़ी बेच के फ्लाइट की टिकट पकड़ के वापस इंडिया चले जाना है. अब यहाँ पे कुछ होना नहीं है. अपना PR ग्रीन कार्ड के लिए अप्लाई किया है, वो आ जाएगा तो फिर सोचेंगे, वापस आएंगे. But just to feed me and my 3 to 4 best friends for a few more days, I agreed to stay. And the only job that I was offered, now just before all of that happened, I was assistant manager in fraud detection with the Travelex. Okay. And the job after that, what was on offer, was probably a cleaner's job for a mall, which would pay like $5 an hour. Okay. That moment, 6:30 in the morning, when I got offered that job, and I took it very humbly, saying, if this is what the universe wants me to do today, then yes, that is also okay. So be that.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that, because during this COVID time, I'm sure a lot of people have experienced the same. And 2008 recession, obviously the backs broke of the people, and they've shared the same.
Absolutely.
And absolutely. So I'm really humbled that we are sharing real life right now.
Absolutely.
Not just Gyan. We are sharing what he went through. And Absolutely. He was ready to pick up from a pen to a broom. That's okay.
Yes. Look, my work at Travelex was paying me $65 an hour. Okay. And the only job left on offer, and not that I hadn't tried for 3.5 months, the only job offer that got offered was a cleaner's job at the mall. And I was like, you know what, to feed myself and three of my best mates, okay, I'll do that. The moment I accepted it, it was a good 2 hours drive. I got ready, I started driving, I reached the location, I picked up, I started learning, because there was a supervisor and he started talking to me, and I got a phone call from Westpac Bank. This was around 8:45, 9 o'clock in the morning, saying there's an opening as an assistant dealer to the money market. Are you cool with this? And I'm like, yes, of course. Are you crazy? Fortunately, it was an ex-colleague who had shifted and he offered, and again, U-turn.
Yes.
But if you ask me personally, I hold this understanding, which I absorbed at that moment, to whatever the universe wants me to do here, right now, in this moment, I will do it. There is no shame and there is no guilt to it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
From there,
Shubhangi saying, I would repeat it too. Is this what the universe wants me to do at this moment? I must accept it. Wonderful, superb. Yes.
And I always keep testing this now. All through from that 2007 till now, I keep testing this. Every time I want to actually grow in life, I go back to becoming zero. Because the key to infinity is to come to shunyata. Okay. You want to expand, you want to grow in life, first things first, come back to zero. Become zero.
Absolutely.
बनिए की भाषा में समझाऊं?
हाँ, बनिए की भाषा में समझाओ, क्योंकि बहुत बनिए बैठे हैं यहाँ पे,
हाँ,
इनको समझना जरूरी है. हाँ जी.
I always tell people, I always tell my business colleagues, because we come from a very typical Gujarati business community. I always tell them, I'm like, सुनो भैया, जिंदगी में एक दिन है ना भिखारी बन के देख लो, genuinely. उसमें कोई ऑप्शन मत रखना, उसमें कोई एग्जिट प्लान मत रखना, प्लान बी मत रखना. एक दिन के लिए भिखारी बन के देख लो, तब तुमको गारंटीड पता चल जाएगा कि अब शनि भी तुम्हारा कुछ नहीं उखाड़ सकता.
बिल्कुल.
Okay. Test it out. Trust me, it works like a miracle.
It does.
I keep doing it every now and then. Whenever I want to test myself out, whether I still have it in me to be able to go out there with that same bull charge, I test myself out. Always.
तो क्या सीखा आपने ये उतार चढ़ाव के बीच में? This up and down journey, what did you really learn?
Hello.
That became a mantra for you.
Life itself is up and down. ये जो है ना, ये wave pattern है. The whole universe is only sound and vibration and waves, and that is what I teach. Yes. ये जब तक ऐसे ऐसे चल रहा है ना, तब तक लाइफ चल रही है. ये जो दिन फ्लैट हो गया ना, लाइफ खत्म.
और अक्सर हम वो फ्लैट वाली मांगते हैं ना.
Exactly.
हमेशा.
Look at what you are desiring, and that is exactly what will be thrown at you. People keep complaining that my life is lackluster. मेरी जिंदगी में तो कुछ परिवर्तन आता ही नहीं है. हम like कहाँ से आएगा? You are not living and loving life itself. You are just trying and hoping for a better day, but that's never coming. What if it's never coming? Can you stop living? Can you stop surviving?
Very good question to ask. So some people are asking questions, and we will go to your questions definitely, but I'm really wanting to ask him the questions that he's never asked. Normally he wouldn't talk about these things at all, guys, and which is why I thought this was a great opportunity, because he's probably telling us what to do, but he did not get it out of books. He got it out of life, and that's why he can talk about it the way he can. So if you go back into your life, Chintan, what you spoke to me and said, I'm a brahmachari, that confused me completely. You're married and you're a brahmachari. What does that mean? Yeah, कुछ बनता नहीं है.
Okay.
या तो आप मैरिड हो या आप ब्रह्मचारी हो, ये दोनों कैसे इकट्ठे हो गए?
No, so brahmachari is a state of consciousness and mind. Okay. I'm married and I'm very happily married. As a couple, we evolved, okay, where our relationship is not based on dependencies. It is not based on lust. It is based on respect, trust, and love, unconditional love for each other. And in that equation, if you really ask us, you evolve out of sex, because that is actually, if you ask me, a very animalistic behavior in certain manner. We are humans and no longer in the animal kingdom. Okay, you have to evolve out of the Muladhara frequencies. That is also the first stepping stone to evolution as a person. When we say spirituality, spirituality is not about abstinence. Brahmacharya is not about abstinence. It is about the thoughts that you hold. Are they coming out of a unconditional itch, which is just a frequency without a mind, or is it coming out of wisdom and true love for someone? 99% of the population really does not know what love is, what sex is, how do you approach your partner in certain manner, how do you address to your partner in certain manner, and this is a problem. We as a community, we as a society, although we say we label sex as a subject in the taboo, but if you look at the society, and a lot of psychologists have done, there are huge studies globally, and it's a proven fact that every human being unconsciously thinks about sex every 5 to 7 minutes, whether you like it or you don't. In which case, one has really not evolved out of it. अभी तक तो वहीं पे मूढ़ता में ही अटके हुए हैं.
Absolutely. So आपको ये लगता है कि अगर thoughts हैं तो हम वहीं के वहीं अटके हुए हैं, तो क्या करना चाहिए?
Again, the moment it is arising, first step, become aware of the breath. Second step, become aware of your thoughts. Okay? Until and unless you are not aware of your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and sensations, you are far away from transformation and then transcendence of sorts.
Okay.
Okay? अगर कोई चीज आपको परेशान करे जा रही है, कोई फीलिंग है, कोई इमोशन है, कोई थॉट पैटर्न है, कोई बिहेवियरल पैटर्न है, एंड लोग आज की तारीख में बहुत सिंपली अपने अनकॉन्शियस बिहेवियरल पैटर्न को अब कैसा है, दे टेक इट फॉर ग्रांटेड. वो तो जस्टिफाई भी कर देते हैं कि नहीं नहीं बट हम तो ऐसे ही हैं. दैट इज जस्ट अ जस्टिफिकेशन टू नॉट इम्प्रूव इन लाइफ. ओके, yes, okay, we all keep saying that you cannot teach a old dog new tricks, but trust me, you can.
Of course you can. अगर डॉल्फिन को डांस करना सिखाया जाता तो क्या इंसान को कुछ और नहीं बनने को सिखाया जा सकता?
Exactly.
A dolphin can be really dancing, and you have to go and see how it can do it.
The first step of this. So again, I am not against sex and sexuality. What it is the perversions of it. Okay, that goes on in people's minds, and a lot of people suffer this. I see too many patients at the clinic. Too many patients. I see as high as 20 patients a day at the clinic. And the problem does not lie, the problem actually lies in the way how we have been conditioned towards these thoughts and these feelings as taboo. Okay, it is the guilt and the shame and the criticism towards it that is actually what is putting us into a anti-flux or anti of thoughts against our own self and against our own being. And people suffer this fundamentally. At the root of everything, look, I say at the clinic, we say, people can lie with your mouth. You can lie to me on my face with your mouth. Okay. But a nadi can never lie. और एक बार हमने किसी का हाथ पकड़ लिया, नाड़ी चेक कर ली, तो बस I can go into your thoughts, I can go into your sensations, feelings, emotions. तुम्हारे दिमाग में क्या चल रहा है? How is your relationship with your mother? How is it with your father? How is it with your wife, your children? How is it in your business? How much money you are making? How much money you are saving? वो हर चीज. What was the emotion of your mother when you were conceived? And what was her mother's emotion when she was conceived? उतना तक का information मैं 5 मिनट में नाड़ी में से निकाल लूंगा. So you cannot lie to me. This is what people suffer. And that is exactly what we fundamentally first start treating as a therapeutic. Also, most ailments originate out of the urogenital region and the kidneys. Okay?
Thank you so much.
That is where
so much. This is so important.
That is where the imbalances begin. Okay. And then it goes into the other organs eventually.
Thank you. What do you think of infidelity? There's so much. It's like an epidemic, I would say. And when I first began my work, I used to find एक family घर पे, एक family बाहर. And I would say एक घर वाली, एक बाहर वाली.
Yes.
But it's not allowed for the woman, but even they are having. But even men and women don't seem to be, we seem to be talking about a lot of trust and faith and blah, 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 but does it really exist? And a lot of youngsters today are looking at their parents and saying, we don't want to get married, we don't want to have an attachment, or we don't want to have children. What would you say for both the sides? Thank you.
So, clinically, humans as a race, as a species, actually most animal species, monogamy is not one of our core virtues and natures. Okay, society has created over the last couple of thousand years a system called family and marriage in certain manner, where you expect to bind two monkeys into a cage and hope that they will breed. Okay, and that is the institution of marriage in today's times, even till date. It's quite crude and unorthodox in certain manner, and that is the reason why 97% of the marriages in the society are more or less failures. Okay, most people are living in a mask and a facade, where it's only them who know what goes on in the bedroom in certain manner, or what goes on really within them. Okay, and these are stagnated relationships, and if you ask me, that is quite poisonous. That is anything which is stagnating is poisonous ultimately, and that is why people suffer. If you look at most people, the root cause of most of their ailments start from relationships. That is the reason why the chapter which I'm or an entire module for a course that I'm designing, which is the module itself is worth 5 days, and I call it pathogenic relationships. Okay. So if you ask me, is infidelity right or wrong? Look, there is no right and wrong. If your relationship is stagnated and if it is poisoning you, please move on. If you need to stick around for children, be open about things. Okay. If you need to be with different partners, because please understand, it's not possible probably, or people are not capable enough to develop and grow together into each other, and so they grow apart. If one person is not able to satisfy you emotionally, or there are different needs for people. Okay, and if one department, your partner is not compatible with you, okay, we live in the 21st century. Do what you feel like, but just don't poison another person's life. Okay, so that is what I would take it as. And people need to actually learn to relate first. Okay, the way how still our society works is, so many people come to me for consultations at the clinic also, and their only concern, माँ बाप का एक ही concern है, बच्चों की शादी कब होगी? I'm like, क्या फर्क पड़ना है? अब करवा के भी क्या उखाड़ लोगे? आपकी खुद की शादी देख लो. Both of you cannot stand each other. जो समस्या और जो बसोड़ी अपने लिए पैदा करी है, वही बच्चों के लिए भी करना चाहते हो. उनको तो जी लेने दो. शादी नहीं करेंगे, शायद सुखी रहेंगे.
पहले पीट पीट के पढ़ाया, फिर पीट के सजाया, फिर उसको शादी के महफिल में सजा देंगे, फिर उसको बोलेंगे पढ़ाई करो, काम करो. Yeah.
I ask so many parents, because so many mothers, so many women come to the clinic, and their only fundamental concern is, बच्चे की शादी कब होगी? And I'm like, tell me, really tell me, don't you love your child? And they go, yes, we.
Sorry.
No, that is the joke. I very, very openly, I ask them blatantly, I'm like, don't you love your child? And they go, yes. And I'm like, तो क्यों शादी करवाना चाहते हो? I mean, okay, it will happen for them. Let them be able to choose a wise partner for themselves. Why do you have to gun everything down their throats?
फिर वही नहीं, it should be same जात, गोत्र, community, शकल, गोरा, काला नहीं होना चाहिए, पता नहीं क्या कुछ नहीं होना चाहिए. Anyway, let's go further. आपके मुताबिक, what is suffering?
Oh.
मतलब क्या सेक्स है, अनु सफरिंग पे चली गई.
नहीं. So I'll explain this to you very, very. Again, this is something which I've been writing and scripting in certain manner.
Thank you.
So what is suffering? And this came to me just thinking about only probably 10 days ago, if you ask me. This is fantastic.
क्या करते हो? इतना नया आप हमें देने वाले हो. मतलब just out of the oven.
Yes. This is just out of the oven. Absolutely just out of the oven, and this is absolutely impromptu. So we did not even discuss about this. What is suffering?
हमने बहुत कुछ नहीं discuss किया था.
Okay. Yeah. So as human beings, we are a bit of a hedonistic race. Do you understand the word of this? the meaning of this?
Nahi.
We crave for pleasure, but we find only suffering.
Yes.
Okay. This is exactly what even Gautama Buddha explained in certain manner, that meditation and enlightenment or nirvana is dukh anta. Okay. So what is dukkha? In certain manner, being unconscious, being unaware, being unmatured is dukkha. Human life and humans, or as mind, we are 24/7 in a rut of craving and aversion. We crave for something, and the moment you are given it, you become averse to it. And so, if you measure, your joys are always short lived and sorrows are always everlasting. Yes or no?
We don't talk so much about the fun that we had in the day, but one
Yes.
little moment of pain and we remember it forever.
Yes. Why?
It'll probably take years to clean it up.
Why? Why do you think that is?
I thought I was interviewing you.
Okay. So, our ego, our ego, I am so and so. I have done so and so things. Okay. Which is a pseudo self in certain manner. It technically doesn't exist, but it's a pseudo self. The ego survives only and only on pain. The ego does not survive on pleasure. Every time you have pleasure is when you are actually liberated. Every time, let's say you have the most pleasurable moment for people in measurable terms is an orgasm, where you, for that moment,
yes,
have let gone of I. That I disappears for that moment. Okay.
it does.
And that is the most pleasurable. But then again, the moment it is gone, and then there is guilt, shame, and immediately shadowed by suffering. Correct?
Absolutely. And something to note, I mean, I can see that people are, I'm just going to request everybody not to laugh, but
Yes.
just for a moment to think. Orgasm doesn't last the whole day. It lasts for a few seconds. Only. Why?
Yes. It's the chase. It's the carrot that the ego provides. Okay. Where you understand that there is something called as a sadist and a masochist. And your body is a masochist. And the mind and the ego is a sadist. It is the mental manipulator of things. It gives the donkey a carrot. You know, you work hard, you be disciplined, you listen to every shit that I put across, you eat food, digest it for me, create energy so that I can work all day long. I will be in my own la la land, and whatever physical suffering, wear and tear, let the body enjoy. Okay, or let the body suffer. The mind is a very, very devious and a self-cannibalizing creature in certain manner. Okay, and in Sanskrit we say, and people ask me, why do they suffer? Why can't they come out of it? So this is the second part of your own question. Why do they suffer? Why do you suffer? And what is suffering? Why do you suffer? And why do people do not come out of it? We say buddhi karma anusarini and karma buddhi anusarini. It is a vicious cycle. Okay, people take birth, reproduce, suffer, and die. That is their life. All its while, from your first breath to your last, fueled by the rage of the ego.
Khwaisho ka mahal.
Khwaisho ka mahal. Craving and aversion, craving and aversion, craving and aversion. There is always another desire. There is always another train to catch. There is always that new fancy mobile or that new car to acquire. There is always another bigger target in business. Why? Because the ego, mind, and the body loves pain and suffering unconsciously. And people are addicted to this pain and suffering. They do not really, actually, if you ask me, look, we've treated at the clinic over the last 3 years, we've done over 7,000 patients, and I have data. Okay, and I've been compiling this data. I just recently finished publishing 3 papers, which are under peer review as of now. And if you ask us, people really do not want to be healed. There are very few out of 100 patients that I see, it's only 30 or 40 who truly want to be healed. The
And
rest,
why is that? Why is that?
because again, sob story, जितना स्ट्रगल करोगे उतना ईगो और एग्जॉल्ट होता है. एक खाली बात बताता हूं, चाय से हमेशा किटली गर्म होती है. आपसे आपका ड्राइवर हमेशा ज्यादा गर्मी में रहता है, करेक्ट? क्यों?
मेरा वाला
क्योंकि
तो
वो,
वाकई रहता है.
हाँ, मेरा भी वाकई रहता था. क्यों पूछो उसको कि भाई क्यों इतनी गर्मी है तुमको? सर मर्सिडीज का ड्राइवर हूं. तुम लाइक मर्सिडीज मेरी है, ड्राइवर तू है.
ठीक कह रहे हो.
है ना? Why is it that we see in the society, the lower communities, the labor class, they have really highly exalted egos, and that is the reason why they suffer so much. They suffer everything, the pain, the grime, the dirt, the victimization, they suffer everything. And yet they are resilient creatures. Why? Because it's the ego which drives them there. The more the suffering, the more exalted the egos. Ease is what starts melting the ego. The moment you sit at ease and you try and see, most people are not able to sit comfortably without an agenda, without a thought for more than 10 minutes. And then the ego will spring back, बोले यार कुछ तो करना पड़ेगा लाइफ में, ऐसे कैसे चलेगा?
So Chintan, what does one do of anger, guilt, sorrow? ये जो emotions.
All these are, so ego, when we say, is just one aspect, which is in the mind in certain manner, which we call the Shen or we call chitta in certain manner, or manas to be precise. Sorry, not the chitta, the manas. And then we have 6 internal organs, which are what we call as the yin organs or the shakti organs, and each of them has its own pseudo ego self identity and their own emotions and their own functions and their roles in your body and mind consciousness, and they all come together to create one family, and that is what creates that melodrama of entertainment. Okay? And everyone is fighting towards who is smarter, who is better, who is sexier in certain manner. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
More handsome. वो भूल गए आप.
But होता ऐसा है ना कि एक 5 आदमी की फैमिली होती है ना, तो there is one sadist and there are 5 masochists. Okay? So who is that sadist is what you have to find in yourself. What is that emotion? So some people are driven by anger in certain manner, but हमेशा ये पूछो कि वो anger आ कहां से रहा है? Anger है, पर उसको उंगली करने वाला कोई तो था. Always try and find out, and sadist is always in the hiding. Okay, so to find a sadist, and again, the way how we look at things, and घूम फिर के I always find that it comes from the urogenital and the kidneys, and it's always fueled either by some behavior or trauma from the mother side or the father side.
Wow.
Okay, people are exhibitionists in certain manner.
Yes.
Okay, and then there are voyeurs. You have to find who's the voyeur and who's the exhibitionist, because the voyeur is the real manipulator. The exhibitionist is a foolhardy without a mind who's just working out.
So this jhol that happens in our relationships,
Yes.
can create, it's like if we were to look at a body with organs which are like different people or cells like different people in our body,
Absolutely.
and we're looking at these organs which are reacting with all these emotions.
Yes.
And then we are looking at it as relationship of one organ with the other, connection of one thing with the other.
Absolutely.
If the connections at home front are messed up, is there a possibility that the connections in these organs will be messed up?
Absolutely. They are representations of each other.
Okay, can you expand that for people?
So there are the nurturing organs, which is the kidneys in certain manner. There are the producers, which is your spleen and the liver and the stomach and the gallbladder. And then you have your lungs and your heart. Okay, and then you have the pericardium in certain manner. And in a house, let's say you will have the heart, who is the wazir of the family in certain manner. Okay, he's the old wise man, he's the grandfather. Okay, the grandson is the head of the family, he's the brain. Okay? He's the tantrum thrower, he's the naive and yet so-called innocent little bastard who's driving everybody nuts. Okay, that's our brain, that's our ego self. And it's always the duty of the grandfather to train the grandchild, because the father, which is the liver, who is the great general in so-called manner, although he knows he's the great general, but he still, because chota bachcha hai, apna hi hai, to usko sar pe chada ke rakha hua hai, which is the brain. So the liver goes out and he does the hard work, and he brings the food and the nutrition, and he circulates it to everybody else. And then you have the spleen, which is, the wives or the mother in certain manner, who are the ultimate masochists in life in certain manner, where they are the stupid, silly fools who feel that they are burdened with all the responsibilities of the whole world. Okay. And so they are all over the place and they become weak because they are seeking only attention and appreciation in certain manner, but they don't find it anywhere. And these are the ones that collapse and break down. And so the moment you have an empty nest syndrome is when the women of the family or women of the family or mothers physically start collapsing. They start developing all the ailments. Okay. And then you have the kidneys, which is actually the mother and the father, or in certain manner, the way how I look at these things is the ancestry and the willpower to move into the future by bringing harmony and balance to all the members of the family and evolving every single day and evolving into the next step of the evolution of the family itself. So that's how I look at each organ, its psychology of each organ in certain manner. And there is a very intricate work that I've been working and doing for some time. But yeah, when I do come out with it is when I do come out with it. I'm a little slow at life.
Okay, we got little digressed. We went into every space which is with the organs, not really digressed, but we went from real relationships to relationships inside the body. I would like to go back to your life right now. And what is it that Mansi, your wife, gets for you in your life? How does she complete you? Or does she complete you? Do you believe in that concept of each other getting completed?
Yes, we complete each other in certain manner. We share a fantastic bond, which is very intuitive in certain manner, if you ask me. We communicate. I mean, if you ask me, she will always feel that we communicate less, but I believe we communicate well, which is more important rather than.
Thank you so much for that. Really important.
We communicate well, but we are not, if you ask me, we are not like other couples of our age group, where our priorities are actually very different in life. We are busy enjoying life. We are busy working intelligently and very hard in certain manner. Both of us have our career paths planned and chalked out. And if you ask me, it's a very easy, smooth flowing life and a lifestyle where she never bothers me and I don't bother her about stuff. We don't nag each other ever. We hardly have fights. Probably in 10 years of marriage, we would have had 5 or 6 fights. वो भी कितना तो के आधा घंटा चला वैसा वाला. For no good reasons of sorts. And we truly depend on each other, again, not based out of dependency, but based out of it through trust, respect, and bonding for each other.
Can you define these words? True trust, bonding, connection. बड़े 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 words हैं. आप जरा इनको थोड़ा simple कर दें
Okay.
ताकि people think, oh, Chintan has the ideal marriage, तो हमारी भी होनी चाहिए ऐसे.
No, ऐसा कोई जरूरी थोड़ी है.
अच्छा
You
ऐसे
have
नहीं है.
you have to build it. You have to structure it. You have to work towards building the right, bright, I wouldn't even say future, the present, here and now. If you're comfortable in your skin and in your relationship here and now, then you made it. If you are not, then you are far from it. So you have to work more or less on every aspect of each other. You have to understand each other's personalities in certain manner. You have to understand, uh, you know, what what are the aspirations of your partner. And let's say there are many times there are many things which I may want to do and she may not want to do, in which case how do you always bring to harmony? Is it that I'm letting go something uh, just sheerly to satisfy her, or is she demanding something just sheerly to satisfy her ego? You always analyze that. You always come to a conclusive space where none of us are sacrificing anything, and yet both of us are always in harmony.
Absolutely. So if you look back now at that 3-year-old, and even before that to a little child in the womb, and I'm going to show people your photographs.
Oh yeah.
So if you look back at that child of 3-year-old and that child in the womb, and if those children were standing right in front of you, what would they be saying right now? Are they happy?
They're very happy.
Okay. And they're happy because?
If you ask me, in the truth, life itself is a dream in certain manner. Okay. And there are glimpses, these what I call as awareness of sorts. At times you really know how it's going to be. And that is exactly how it manifested to be. It was a great joyride, and it is going to be a fantastic joyride going forward. And that's how it is.
Okay. And in the future, the Chintan who's sitting with us, is he happy?
Absolutely.
And he's happy because?
The the aspiration of every human being who comes on earth is ultimately to enlighten. And when someone reaches that state, there are two things that as species we do. The first one, if there is a conducive environment uh, outside, okay, then humans as a race, or animals as a race, or life as a race, it reproduces, and that is how it does the transference of all the information, knowledge, and wisdom that it understands from the whole universe to its next generation. And when a human reaches the state of enlightenment and he doesn't find a conducive environment, or he chooses not to reproduce, is then when he shares all this information amongst its fellow beings, and that is how he passes his life and ends his final journey in certain manner. That is the end of the line.
Okay.
So these are two different types of how information is distributed into the collective consciousness. And so one is through reproduction, which goes through the DNA chains of the families, and the second one is when a being enlightens and he transmits this knowledge to the collective masses. And yeah, so that's how.
Like your Bhuas did.
Yes.
So during this COVID time, during this time, which is right now, I see Mumbai completely open. I see people no social distancing. Also, the masks are worn not here but here. Uh, uh, also, suddenly it's like the government has decided to open up from being very, very, very cautious to very, very casual. It's again the peak that we talked about, the wave. What would
Yes.
you tell people that they should be doing during this time?
So yes, one, be safe in certain manner, but look, things are supposed to open now. We've gone through that transit of Pluto in certain manner, and that's pretty much that. This will last probably till the month of March. By end of September, we will start seeing the numbers go down in certain manner, or the virulence of the virus will definitely. I mean, the strength and the virulence of the virus certainly will start going down. Uh, the root cause of every ailment is fear. Okay, so being cautious and being fearful are two different things. Be wise, be cautious in certain manner, but please don't be fearful. I mean, this is life, this is the new normal, in which case, get moving with it.
So, what's the difference between normal and natural?
They are more or less the same thing.
Are they?
That they're the natural, what we are going through is what we call as the natural course of destiny. Okay. And no matter what you do to fight it, you either will reach the finish line squealing and squirming, or you will reach there happy and entertaining yourself.
Wonderful. I have a last question for you.
Yes.
If there are so many gurus out there,
Yes.
especially with sound right now,
Oh yes.
everybody seems to be a sound master.
Yes.
Everybody's teaching.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying don't teach, I'm saying teach.
Absolutely.
Who am I to judge anyone, and who's anybody to judge anyone? And then there are so many people who are having their faith connections with the people and everything. What do you say about being the right way of giving knowledge and right way of accepting knowledge?
So see, Anu, obviously, you know the kind of person that I have been. I'm always happy to. I'm also one of those people who would have told this was between you and me, and you had asked me, "Can I teach sound?" And I'm like, "Huh, sikhao," right? So the reason being, every person has their own choice and their right to express themselves.
Absolutely.
Sound is supposed to be the medium of enlightenment. This is Kalki Yuga, and the element of Kalki Yuga is space age or jet age, fast. And space element ki tan matra jo hai, that is sound. I started teaching sound way back. I think I was one of the first, uh, you know, first few in India. Uh, I mean, it was uh, I think three people who started teaching sound. I was one of the first forerunners of it, and yet if you look at it, I've done the most limited number of workshops. But if you look at each of my workshops, they are nothing like anything, right? Uh, and I always say to people, okay, look, there are a lot of people out there who know too many things about sound. Okay, they have a lot of knowledge, who have too many tools about sound, and they can use a lot of tools to jingle away. But can you really heal with sound is a different story altogether. And that is exactly what I will always hold true. The same thing goes with any other modality. A lot of people know a lot of things about it, but can you truly heal with it? That's a different ball game altogether. Uh, Again, from something which I'm scripting is, uh, I call it the art of the great masters. Okay, and great masters are not. I mean, they can be created, but they are truly born in certain manner. Okay. And their attitude towards healing is very different. Healing in itself, if you ask me, is a very, I would evaluate that word very, very critically. I don't call it healing. I'm like, that's atrocious words towards what we call as pure yoga. And that's what my take on these things are. So something which is not coming out of your own true experience, कितना भी marketing पे trigger दबा लोगे, the end result I have always seen is माल में दम नहीं होगा तो नहीं बिकना है. There's no long run to it. Okay. You want to build a sustainable brand, because a lot of you are healers within this group. Obviously, it's a huge market of so-called healing, and yet in this entire market, you will actually find a very few true masters who are, who've stood the test of time. People come and people go, and so many people, to be very honest with you, even my wife sometimes comes up and says, "Arey, ye dekh, Facebook pe ek aur koi to naya sound is." I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter. I really don't care, because the right seeker will always reach the right master. Whenever the seeker is ready, the master is ready.
Very well said. I'm going to show everybody your photographs.
Absolutely.
And then open up the forum for everyone to ask questions.
Absolutely.
By the time I'm putting this right now, I'm going to be sharing it with you. I would really, really appreciate if all of you would start putting in the chat box what you really need to ask him, so that we can coordinate that bit also. And yeah, just give me a minute so that I can organize everything together, because technology again. Okay, so let's see how I'm going to go. I have to keep jumping through my different. So when I am sharing right now, Safari, Zoom, pages, documents, and Google Chrome. This is Facebook, not this. Just give me a minute, guys. Okay.
I'll keep the conversation on till then, Anu.
Yeah.
Please, could you do that?
Yeah. See, actually, this is my fourth session today. I'm on the web since 7 in the morning. A friend ko bola, she wanted me as a visitor on BNI, then another one Nitika, then Shamku Binduji. And on Anu's show, Mr. Chintan, I'll call you Chintan ji.
No, please don't call me Chintan ji. Call me Chintan.
Okay. Either I'm there or I'm not there. अब अचानक something drew me. I said नहीं मुझे आना है.
Okay.
And I just otherwise I'm always 10 minutes ahead of time. Either I'm there or I'm not there. ये बीच में trespassing करना. There was something that drew me. I don't know. And I said I'm coming in and I was missing you. It was tugging at my heart. सच्ची बताऊं.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to open the photographs.
Yes. There. Oh.
That's my younger brother Dhaval, and that's me on.
Yeah, that's him on the top, right?
Top, yeah.
So you can. Can you explain what this is?
My sisters. Okay, we can go next.
Okay, it's not as okay. Okay, we'll go from whatever is open, guys.
Okay.
So you know who this is?
That's Mansi.
Oh my God.
Very cute photograph. And that's Chintan for us without his mustache.
Yep.
And that's nice. That's again Chintan with his sweetheart. You look nicer with the
beard, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So
these are like, just random pics of me and Mansi, and
Okay.
You can go to a few childhood ones and they're really nice.
I'm gonna go. All are nice.
Yeah.
This is also very fancy.
Yeah. That's from the marriage.
And that looks like he's modeling, guys.
Yeah. But that's from the marriage shoot.
Okay. And we go to childhood. Okay. Can you see this, guys? That's the little one. Can you see them? And that's, I think, his family down?
No. So that's in the lower pic. On the extreme, my left is my dad, and 1, 2, 3, fourth. Fourth one is my mom.
Wonderful.
On the right. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, we go to some more photographs.
No. You're again the same thing.
Okay. These are workshop ones. These were childhood pics, and this was just 2 of them.
Okay.
Then we have here. These are again your workshops.
Yep. You were there somewhere here. Where are you? You were the one who was clicking it.
I was the one who was clicking it.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the last one before the COVID.
Yep. And what a workshop it was.
What a workshop it was. Really enjoyed. Completely. Panchagini.
Yes.
So this is also workshop? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's house full. I wanted to show you guys with the baby photographs of his actually.
Yeah.
Not this one. So give me a second. Let me send it across, or I will put it from myself. Give me 1 minute. So I'm going to go out. Stop share. Okay. जो 12 फोटोग्राफ्स थी ना उसमें है काफी थी ना मेरे को 1 सेकंड आपको देना पड़ेगा can you guys Kiran, can you just take over for 2 minutes please?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
People can punch in their questions also in the meantime.
Can you take up the questions till then? I'm just going to sort this out. Thank you so much.
Really. Yeah, I think people can just start talking and asking questions.
Yeah.
One thing I'll tell you, Chintan, our soch is quite the same. Your knowledge is much more, but the way you are talking, like how I deal with the relationships, marriage, kyun karna hai, our soch is quite the same. Though our generations काफी अलग है.
Correct.
Your knowledge is much more, but our thinking, our thought process is just the same. Like my son is 30. शादी जब करना है करेंगे, क्यों कर रहे हैं आप चिंता?
Exactly.
So the same way, like when you spoke about marriage, about marital, like I deal with my client, and even me, that thought process is very. I wrote in the message that it's very non-judgmental, unbiased.
Thank you.
ऐसे रहने से, I think we lead a very happy life.
Absolutely.
And one thing, Chintan, you just tell me, because I've seen the people around me, cases, even some friends. I think first jealousy, that turns to anger. And then that makes the person very unhappy.
Correct.
Isn't this the way, right?
That is more or less.
Siblings may have seen.
Yes, and again, this is very visible. So because I see that you are a doctor, and so I mean, so am I.
PhD,
yeah. So, but I'm a practicing, acupuncturist and a naturopath and a Ayurveda in certain manner. So. When we look at people's nadis in certain manner, in Hindi or Sanskrit is the most beautiful.
Exactly.
The most beautiful language. Okay.
Clear language.
And the moment I'm checking their kidney pulses and their liver pulses, and you find blazing fire in it in certain manner. And in our language or in Hindi, we say jalan.
जलन है, अंदर से
जलन,
जलते रहते हैं. Exactly.
तो अंदर से जिसको जलन है वो जेलस भी उतना ही होता है as a person. Your emotions are also, or behaviors also, it works both ways. So the mind and the body, and the body and the mind, they are interconnected. What is happening in the mind is represented on the body, and whatever is represented in the body is happening inside the mind. Okay. And I always take this top down approach of things, where if you want to heal the mind, uh, it will happen through working on the body, and if you want to work on the body, it will happen on healing the mind. Okay. And I use basically Ayurveda, the science of life. Ultimately everything is Ayurveda, if you ask me. So I use, or over the number of years, I mastered all three processes of Ayurveda, which is what we call as the Daivik Upayas, which is through mantra, meditation, sound, and other modalities of managing the mind, which is a Daivik Upchar. The Manushya Upchar was pending for a long time for me to address, but I just managed finally addressing that, thanks to the lockdown, where now I have my own 50 formulations of Ayurvedic medicines for pretty much every ailment under the sun. And Asuri Upais. So I've been a teacher and I've been a master trainer for Nadi Yoga, and that is the Daivik Upchar. I'm also a master of acupuncture. You will not find a better acupuncturist across India, or to be precise, across Asia, to be precise, in terms of the results that we've delivered. And that is what we call the Asuri Upais. Asuris are, so Ravan Nadi, as we say, was, Ravana was a very, very intelligent man. It was all about precision. And so the Asuri Upais are the ways which work the fastest in this Yuga, or in the Jet Age. If you want real fast results, clinical results, scientifically provable, and cure for chronic ailments, you need to deploy the Asuri Upais in certain manner. These are diabolical in nature. So acupuncture.
So Ganas also
These are few photographs.
Yes.
So can you see the first one? Can
Yes.
you see anything?
Chota bachcha.
No, so yeah. No, you go on.
Yeah. So now I'm going to share the other one.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's Chintan. Okay, we have to share each at a time. Okay. And that's again.
Okay, so that's my dad and me on the horses. From my left to right, so in the white Punjabi suit, she's my Buaji Mohini Foy. In the red sari, Sudha Foy. They are a part of my family, and they are the senior most teachers of Vipassana as of today across India in certain manner. And in the red sari, again at my right, she's my senior most Buaji, Hemlata Foy. And yeah.
Wow. Okay, let's see the other one. That's you and your dad, right?
Yeah.
So that's little Chintan.
That looks like Amol Palekar back in the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
He still does, actually.
And, sorry, I have to keep going back.
Yeah.
And that's he sitting
Humpty
on a high
Dumpty.
wall.
Yeah, Humpty Dumpty on the wall.
I would really jump from there.
Yeah.
So scary.
Yeah.
Okay. We look at
That's a cousin of mine, and he's been an amazing guide in my life.
and in which way?
He's also an enlightened being, enlightened master. He's a doctor, and he was in 2011 is when he pointed a finger into a particular direction and said he was using Shiv's Swarodaya, and I saw it when he was dispensing medicine. And I'm like, भैया ये तो शिव स्वरोदया है. I'm like, तेरे को कैसे पता? I'm like, मैंने पढ़ा है, but समझ में कुछ नहीं आ रहा है. He's like, this is a science of transmission. You want to understand it? Go to Girnar and meet this Baba, and he'll transmit it to you. I'm like, okay. And that is exactly what I did.
Wow. So I'm just going to. So I hope you guys have got a glimpse into Chintan's life. We went through various different parts of his life, not just the parts which make him look heavenly and like, he reached over there and, oh my God, he did some jantra mantra. But let's really ask him if he can do a little meditation for all of us before we leave, so that all of us feel a little bit more, we have someone who spent his entire childhood in this kind of environment. So I would really urge you, Chintan, right now, if you can, take us through a process, maybe, if that is possible.
Yes, for sure. So we can do a very quick, probably a 5-minute process. Okay.
I really appreciate.
Really simple and yet a very powerful technique again, which I don't know, I haven't read about it, but it was just trial and error, and I managed to find it. If you ask, may say, do one thing. Just everybody, just sit simply straight with your eyes open. Okay. You can keep your left foot down on the floor, and the right one you can probably lift it, and probably in like a Ardha Padmasana sorts of, or lift it up, whatever is comfortable. Okay. And breathe in very deeply till the belly, very slowly. And while exhaling, simply, I wouldn't say chant, but I would say just murmur, or just hear this. This is how I do it. So this is not a om, it's just a hum. And you breathe out. And simply do this 11 times with me, and feel how your heart chakra, or the anahat chakra, literally just vibrates and opens up. Okay. Can we do this? Okay, start. Anu, can you unmute everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Can everybody unmute themselves? Because they have a provision to mute but not unmute.
Yes.
You can close our eyes and do, na? I think that's
No, open eyes. Open eyes. Okay. Start. Last one. All together. Fantastic.
Thank you so much. There is one question,
Yes.
and if you can read it from Bharat to everyone. Question is: when you crushed the competition at the Yes Bank, quoted Krishna. I missed the context. Can you please give clarity? What did Krishna tell Arjuna to crush?
So in Mahabharata, there is this reference where it's a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. And Arjuna becomes a little weak in the knees when he's supposed to go to war. Just a second. Huh?
Anu, I started the question with "Hi, mate," so I needed his Australian accent.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Come on, यार अभी तो बच नहीं सकते आप. और गाना बच गया हमारा. हमने गाना लगाना है.
अच्छा.
हाँ.
Okay, so when Arjuna just became a little weak in his knees, looking at that, it's his uncle, it's his brother, it's his cousin, it's his family who's out there, and he's supposed to kill them or he's supposed to fight them. And that's where Krishna just politely said, Arjuna, if you don't pick up the bow and the arrow, I will. Okay, it doesn't matter. War means war. And there is a discipline to war where when you're fighting, you fight, and in the evening, when the fight is over, is when you again go back and make amends with the family.
Absolutely. And you remember the song that you had said, Kun Faya Kun?
Oh, yes.
I'm going to just put on his favorite song for him. And what I'm